Hey guys, JJ here, back again with another Wednesday of Zoom networking. Day before Turkey Day, Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for. I think what's most important are the people in our lives, the people that we call family and friends. And our guest speaker is a good friend of mine. He is one of the young rock stars out of Pace Columbia Sub2 community. If you guys have been on my calls, you've heard me talk about Pace. He's a premier genius in creative finance for real estate in the country, which means the world. And Pace's Sub2 community is unparalleled as the best real estate education platform in the country today. Our guest speaker today is not yet Pace. Hopefully we'll get Pace soon. But it's one of Pace's rising young rock stars, a young man I met a handful of months ago. Heck, could have been even a year ago. But he started as a student, became an investor, an entrepreneur, now a successful real estate investor, husband, father, family man, just doing it all the right way. And a mountain man. I love this guy, my good friend, Mike Key. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great, JJ. How about you?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I really enjoyed the
Awesome.
conversation we had the other day. Hey, really quick, for those that don't know you, where in the country are you located?
So I'm up north. I'm in Idaho, land of potatoes.
Man, this sounds beautiful up there. Blue skies and open air and open land and
Oh yeah.
nothing at all like Los Angeles, what's behind me in the picture. But
Yeah, there's not too many people here. Originally from the East Coast, but we moved out here to get away from people.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, where were you raised? You mentioned the East Coast.
Raised in Virginia Beach and then spent a little bit of time living in Florida. And we lived in Tampa, Florida. There was more people in this one county that we lived in than in all of Idaho. So that was
Wow.
like enough people for us. And we are like, we need fresh air.
Yeah. No, I feel that same way sometimes living in Los Angeles. Of course, we all get used to what we know, and sometimes that's what we prefer because that's what we know. Um, so let me jump into talking about you, and because let people learn a little bit about who you are and what you do. I said this the other day. We all start in real estate at a different time, at a different way, different opportunities. Uh, but usually that happens. Some of it happens when some of us are younger, some of us are older, like myself. But we transition from our youth into adulthood, and somewhere along that path, we become real estate investors. That's what we want to do if we're not yet there, or whatever happens to be. Um, for yourself, when we're in our teens, we're driving at 16, we're voting at 18, we're able to order an alcoholic beverage at 21. Um, with yourself, from your teens moving into your 20s, you're married, you've got kids. As you've moved from your youth into adulthood, teens to your 20s, let's start there. Was real estate even on the landscape for you growing up? Was mom an agent? Was dad a contractor?
No. I grew up in a single mother home, right? So we were pretty poor, and real estate was the last thing on my mind. It was cars and going fast for me. So it was the last thing I was thinking about.
Okay, so you know, your teen years, part of it's going to school, and part of it, did you just figured I'm going to do something else?
No, actually, I was like a troubled kid. So I ended up dropping out of school in the ninth grade. I failed the ninth grade, got held back, and then I was like, you know what? I just don't want to do this anymore. So I just dropped out. I think I got my GED, but then I was pretty much aimless. Like late teens into my 20s, I didn't know what I was doing. I had an uncle that worked construction, so I did every blue collar job under the sun. I did construction, painting, did a landscaping company, cleaned carpets, helped a plumber once, did some electrician stuff, just randomly doing things.
So I now today looking back, do you see that maybe as some sort of an introduction to real estate? I mean, you're working on
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, in a way. A lot of that helped like form some of the knowledge that I use in real estate today. Right. So like we do flips now. And at the time, I never realized that like I would be applying some of that today. If that makes sense, Like just
Yeah.
some of that basic understanding. I know enough to be dangerous, but I also know enough to not get taken by contractors, right? So if they're feeding me
Yeah.
crap, I know like that's not how much that costs.
Okay. So, as we're moving along, when you get into your 20s and what was your first career path? Say after you got married or before you got married or during that transition of getting married, what was your, because you got kids now. So what was your career path when you became a family man?
So that's a funny story. Like I said, I was kind of aimless, but there was something I was doing this related to today's topic. And I was building communities and I built a car club. And because I grew up in a single home, my mom had this idea that like computers were going to be the future. So she bought me a personal computer way too young. And we had the internet way earlier than I think most people did because we had Prodigy back in like 93. So I had always been exposed to a computer and I learned how to build websites on my own. But it never clicked for me that this could be a career path until some opportunities kind of came along. I built a car forum for a local club. I didn't have a lot of friends because I dropped out of school, but I was into Camaros and Firebirds. So I built a car club. I built a forum around this, and that brought people to me. We started doing meetups and stuff. A friend presented an opportunity to me to build a website for his boss. And then he kind of pointed out, he's like, hey, Mike, you could do this as a living. And that was a military guy. He had a small company, had gotten out. He was a vet. And vets are really, they're buddy buddies. And he recommended me to another buddy. And that kind of started my freelance career as a web developer. And I kind of just worked off of generating attention. And then that led to more opportunities.
And how old are you at this point in time?
About 26. Yeah, 26, 27.
Okay. And then you got married shortly after that, or?
Yeah, I got married right around the same time I figured this out.
Okay.
So it was good timing.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, now this is when you were living on the East Coast at the time?
Yeah, I still lived in Virginia Beach at the time. So this is about 2009, 2010. 2010 is when I formally started my freelance business. This is my first entrepreneurial endeavor too.
Now we talked about Sub2 a little bit. Sub2's only been around for a few years, and we're in 2023. So 2020-ish, about 20, Pace was on the landscape before that, but Sub2 came around about 2021, more like 2020. Between 2010 and 2020, what was your transition into real estate? I mean, what took you from doing the websites and finding those things to getting into real estate? What was that path like for you?
For me, that was a really slow transition. I'm a slow starter. So I grew up poor, and then doing blue collar stuff didn't afford me a lot of income, and I was living in a trailer park when we got married. And one of the things that had happened is being a young guy into cars, I got myself into debt. When I started my entrepreneurial journey, that kind of opened the doors to like all the different success people out there, Tony Robbins and whatnot. I started consuming this content, found Dave Ramsey. I was like, I need to apply these concepts. I'm married now. I need to start thinking bigger. And that slowly started this introspective journey of thinking about how to build things like, generational wealth and concepts like that. And I had a friend that was into real estate, and we had talked about it, but it took a good long time for me to like really take action on this. Like I knew as soon as 2011 that buying real estate was a thing that I should do. But like most people, I was like, well, I just don't know how. And I never really solved the problem until I realized it was just taking action. Like I overthought it for a number of years. Like, how can we get started in real estate? We have to save up money. And so it would take till 2016 till I realized you just go apply for a loan. That's all it takes to get started.
So, when did you buy your first house before you became an investor? Did you buy your first house as a result of becoming an investor?
We bought our first house as a result of becoming investors. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'd started listening to Bigger Pockets, and at first we thought about house hacking, but we had two kids at this point. There's a side story there that when we lived in Florida, we decided to sell everything we own and travel the country in an Airstream for 2 years. So from the end of 2014, 2015, and part of 2016, we traveled the country for 2 years while living in Airstream. And while I was listening to Bigger Pockets, I was like, we need to get into real estate. Like, we need to take action now. And we thought about house hacking, but with two little girls, we were like, we don't want to live in a duplex. So I came up with the idea that let's buy a starter home that's kind of small. We're going to outgrow it pretty quickly, but we can fix it up. And then we can move to another starter home. And let's move to an area where the affordability is low enough that we can get these houses, but has growth potential. And that's how we ended up in Boise, Idaho.
Very cool. Now, were you in Boise before you got into Sub 2 or after you got into Sub 2?
Before I got into Sub 2. Yeah.
So how'd you hear about PACE? How'd you hear about the Sub 2 community?
So we got into real estate, and then we kind of got stalled in real estate. Like most people, it's just like, how do I scale if I have to keep saving all of the money? And I've bought Brandon Turner's books on like raising private capital and stuff, and I could never. You hear about other people's money, but no one really explains it in depth. And even Brandon's book doesn't do a very good job of explaining exactly where it comes from. And I was following Cody Sanchez, and I think maybe she led me to a Pace Morby because I was looking for videos on how to raise private capital. And I found a 4-hour video, and that opened up the rabbit hole for me. Pace put out a 4-hour video on how to raise private capital. And he explains in this video, I think it's before he launched Gator, but he describes like gators and sharks and whales and all these different animals and fish. And there's so much information in that. And I took notes. At first, I was just working and listening to it. And I was like, man, this guy has put so much information in this video that I rewatched it several times and took notes. And I was like, it just got the gears going. And I was like, okay, we need to take action and like really figure this out this year and make this happen. And I started consuming his content. And I had taken a job that I had been working for the last 10 years. That was kind of a golden handcuff situation. And the year prior, that entrepreneurial itch had come back in my brain, and that you need to take action on real estate. And this job had turned toxic. And so I just found Pace combined with the toxic job. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I need to take action on my dreams. I can't put this off any longer because my kids are looking at me. And so I ended up just quitting and joining Sub 2 right after I quit. Just went all in. I'm like, I'm going to figure out this real estate thing, and I'm going to get back into, being my own boss. So just huge risk, but yeah.
And you've been in Sub 2 for how long now?
So I joined August 2022. So just a little over a year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's crazy is, I've known you probably pretty much since you've been in Sub 2, and we haven't met face to face because we're in 2 different states, but you've been on a number of my Zoom calls. You've been on as a participant, and we've gotten to know one another. We've been on the phone a couple different times. But the thing I've really noticed about you is in a relatively short period of time, it's like you just become really visible. I think, to some extent, you've been taking some things that I've taught about how to be visible, and you just ran with it. So, I mean, what's your experience as a new investor going from joining a community to implementing these things? And I guess you now acknowledge or recognize the fact that you're receiving recognition as being visible.
Yeah. It's like you always say, right? Visibility is opportunity. And so that's something that I've gotten compliments on, is people are like, oh yeah, I know you. I've seen your content and whatnot. And I was making a lot of content. It's funny. I'm dealing with a parent that has ALS, and probably we're like at the weeks stage right now. It's not much longer. So it's kind of taken me away from a lot of the attention I was doing right now. But that has opened up just a number of doors and opportunities just by being more visible. And if you're a new investor, the number one thing you can do is create attention around yourself, even if you don't know anything. You can leverage that to bring people that do know stuff. Yeah.
And I say it all the time, people help people they know, like, and trust. That's the common phrase. Pace says that all the time. No,
that right there.
Trust.
Yep.
I say people help people that they like, and they cannot like you if they don't know you. In the context of social media, if one is not visible, they're not going to know who you are. But even if you're a brand new real estate investor, we've got a young lady on the call today that's relatively new, met her in Atlanta. Even if you're a brand new real estate investor, if you make yourself visible within your community, people will know who you are. And then as they know who you are, they'll come to like you. And that's what I say all the time. Networking leads to visibility, visibility leads to opportunity. Your topic today, we talked about that the other day, is creating opportunities in an intention economy. Well, we know what creating opportunities means, but for those that aren't familiar with the phrase, what is an attention economy?
Yeah. So what's your most valuable resource? Most people think it's their time, but what do you do with your time? You give your attention to something. And so the attention economy is really this idea that like we're vying for different people's time and attention, right? So if we want to grab people's attention, then we want to redirect that to what? To maybe a product we have or to bring opportunities to us. We want to leverage that attention. So we want to capture attention and leverage it. And so we find ourselves, everyone knows about social media. We find ourselves in this new era where the more attention you can grab, the more opportunity you can create. And there's a bigger game there too than just ad money or something, right? It's really about opportunities, connecting yourself to the right people, opening the right doors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It's funny talking about opportunities. All of us that are investors, whether we've been in this game for a while, years, couple of years, decade, whatever it happens to be, or we're brand new. There's no difference in the fact that we're not looking for anybody to give us anything. All we want is an opportunity to become successful. What's going to dictate our level of success is going to be the people that we surround ourselves with. And a very common phrase is we become the sum of the 5 people we interact with the most. And what does that mean? Basically it means that who are we building relationships with? Real estate's a relationship business. And what's most important is that we build rapport with these people. We want the opportunity to get to know successful people so that we can become friends with them because, people help their friends. I tell new investors all the time, I want the most valuable thing you have. Cynthia Ware is a very good friend of mine. She's been on our calls many times. And I've told her, Cynthia, I want the most valuable thing you have. What is that? And she'll sit and she'll think, and it's like, my time? No. Is it my son? Well, I'm not going to say it's not the most important thing, but the most valuable thing that any person has for me is their friendship. I want someone's friendship because if I'm not their friend and they're not my friend, am I going to help them? No, flat out no. We're not going to help people we don't like. What we want is the opportunity to create relationships with people that can help us. And everyone's not going to resonate with us. Right? I'm not going to like everybody. Everybody's not going to like me.
Yep.
If someone doesn't like me, I can't take it personally. I just have to realize that they're not smart enough to get to know who I am, But again, it gets back to what you were saying about opportunity, and I went on a tangent there for a bit. So, Mike, again, attention economy, right? So the economy is that we only have so much time. Economics is about what we can do with however much time we have. And I guess the attention economy is what's our time goes to the things that take our attention. Mario Finkbeiner, you are on with Mike Key, my friend.
Hey, how you doing?
What's your question?
Mike, quick question. I'm curious for newbies, with the social media and your explosion on, people knowing, oh, I remember him. I've seen him around. They may not know exactly. What do you recommend? I'm not a big, I did it for 5 years of video every day, but I'm not a big media fan. What would you suggest to help the newbies out?
Yeah, a video every day is hard, right? And I don't even make that much content because I'm like super picky. A lot of my attention has been going into two areas. One, I created a Facebook group, and so I've been focusing locally on a meetup that I've been hosting, which I think is a great way. If you're in an area where there's no real estate meetups or whatever, you're like, well, why would anyone want to come to my? Because you can create opportunities for people to connect, right? So that's a big focus that I was going to talk about. Is like, I think people should host a meetup because it applies to not just real estate, but like anything. Going back to like my career, the first thing I did as an entrepreneur is I was working with a software called WordPress. Maybe someone's heard of that. It's used for websites all the time. Yep. I hosted a WordPress meetup once a month that brought other business owners and people to come talk about WordPress, but it also created opportunities because then people realized that I had knowledge in this and they're like, hey, Mike, can I hire you to fix this thing? That led to opportunities. So for me, I think Instagram's good because you can kind of share who you are visually through a visual medium. But two, just like JJ is talking about, a lot of my visibility has been inside of Sub2 posting on everything. And that's easy. You just set a time block and be like, I'm going to spend. The challenge with social media is that we tend to consume it, and you have to be like tactical about this. Like, I'm going to spend 20 minutes and I'm going to look for things that I can answer. And I'm going to try to leave insightful answers. I'm going to try to tag people. And then that creates visibility. That's what happened for me is people like, oh yeah, I see you posting everywhere. Like, well, yeah, it's just because I was spending 30 minutes every day tactically finding things to comment on. Even it's just hello, welcome to all the new people.
To go with that, Mike, people always talk about, what to post when they're new. One of it's just commenting and engaging with others. Facebook's predicated upon engagement. So as a new investor in any community, you're going to maximize your visibility by engaging more. Facebook recognizes, they acknowledge your participation, your engagement. And the more you engage and the more engagement you create by asking questions, the more visible they're going to make you.
Yeah, the more they'll push your content too, and then people will see that.
Yeah, and
you're kind of leveraging the algorithm in a way.
Well, most definitely leveraging the algorithm. We've got a young man on the call right now, Peter Yim. He's in our networking group. He has posted more videos to our networking group than anybody in the group, at least half a dozen. And the more he does it, the more comfortable he gets. The more he does it, the more visible he gets. And it's something that the Pace talks about all the time. Just do a short video and post that. Cynthia Ware, you are on with Mike Key. What's your question?
Where did you find the biggest challenge for yourself?
Where I find the biggest challenge for like jumping into from doing it to wanting to do it to actually doing it?
Actually doing it. I mean, there's a lot of people out here that want to do it, but actually getting it going. Consistency in funds.
Great question.
Consistency is the hard part, like every day. Man, that's a good question. Because I don't think I have an answer for it because it's like a continuous challenge, if that makes sense, right?
Okay.
Like you're going to be, I'm kind of always fighting. We're doing a flip that we closed on October 13th, and it's going slower than I expected. And I still struggle. I stress out about it every day right now. Because we had something come up. We had to go to Florida for 6 days immediately afterwards. So that set back my schedule. Then I got sick for the last 2.5 weeks. I'm still kind of getting over it right now. And so I don't think it ever really, the challenge is just every day. Okay. That's probably not the answer anybody wanted.
So one of the things.
It's a mindset,
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm learning 2 things that might be important, particularly next year, upon positioning myself to do at least next year 4 rehabs. And I'm not including the multifamily. Okay, I'm behind on that. And so I'm not including that. But transactional coordinator has you just kind of need that to get to get to the closing escrow more with less stress, with me less stress, because somebody else is taking on the stress. I really, really kind of like that. Might need to put your trigger maybe a little bit on the title company you pick to associate maybe better timing. But that's over time. And then the other thing that I have appreciated that is finding a good project manager. If I find a good project manager, next year I want to put a team together, but borrow none. This one man wearing all these hats, I can't take it. I can't take it another year.
Yeah, that's actually what burned me out and why I took a job, because I had said that I was an entrepreneur as a freelance web developer. I was trying to wear the same situation. I was trying to wear all the hats, and I couldn't do that. I had this particular talent and skill set. And when someone was like, "Hey, would you like to just do this one skill?" I said, "Sure, sign me up." And I just went for it, because I burned myself out trying to be an entire agency, a web designer, and all these other things when I had just one skill. And when I could just do the one skill, I could flourish. And I find that in real estate too, there's a lot of people, all the successful people end up building teams, because you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah, but the key to the team is that you got to find that same energy, that same, because you don't want somebody on the team I never did this well, even in medicine, is pulling a lazy, a person. I just never did that well. I'm a go-getter. I work to the job is done. I didn't work and say, we had a system where you can drop the work off and leave at 5 o'clock. I stayed to 7:30, 8 till the work was done. And so you kind of got to find someone that has that same kind of ethic, a completeness, same like yourself. Because if you got that one person in here that says, I'm riding the tail, woo, I don't do real well with that ride the tail. I just don't. But that project manager, transaction coordinator is a key one to me. Thank you for that answer. I mean, you kind of shared the same sentiments that I have, and that's that multi-hat. Is to get to that smooth place where you really got a connection in a workflow with others.
As you guys talk about that, the transaction coordinator and the project manager, and building that team and developing that consistency, everything we do intertwines with other people, and I think one of the things I've really noticed about you is as you've made yourself visible, you've built relationships, you've marketed yourself, and by putting yourself out there, people come to know your name, and I'm sure that brings you opportunity.
Yeah, it does. And so does that whole putting yourself out there and helping other people, figuring out what your talents are and leveraging those talents. So early on in Sub 2, one of the things I got compliments from people for my Instagram videos. They liked my Instagram videos. And one of those people was Daniel Chiano. And so I just offered to help him. And that opened up doors to literally being able to go have dinner at Pace Morby's house and getting to go to 2 boot camps, getting to go to the mastermind, getting some behind the scenes access and time with Pace, just by offering skills that I already had that have nothing to do with real estate to someone else, and kind of looking close to and being a little strategic. So I've been on Carly's podcast, and I am slightly strategic with some of the friendships and people that I want to associate with. And I look for opportunities where there's similarities, because like you said, people will or will not relate to you. So I look for people that I have similar talents and interests with. So Carly and them, they're outdoors people, we're outdoors people. So it was an easy relationship to build, and it was strategic. It's on purpose.
Pansy Sleep, you're on with Mike Key. What's your question?
I don't know that I really have a question. I just wanted to comment that a lot of your story resonated with me. I've had a similar path. So from the high school thing and stumbling around life, and so and I love the art outdoors thing. So I mean, your story is great, and I appreciate you sharing. Maybe one thing is, so I don't know, like, how much attention you got, like, before you got into this community. How did you handle? Because to me, it's overwhelming, honestly, because really, I didn't get a whole lot of attention.
For me, it hasn't really been too overwhelming. So I run another Facebook group. I have another company that me and my wife manage called Off-Road Treks. And in this Facebook group, actually, nope. Let's see. We have, how many members do we have right now? 13,718 members. So this is a community called Full Size Overlanders. And one of the things we did is I started sharing my passions, and my passion is outdoors, off-roading and stuff like that. And I created a Facebook group around that. So I had been already kind of creating attention for a while. I have a YouTube channel with about 3K subscribers. Not a lot, but it was just around this topic. And we leveraged that passion to put an event on that we were hosting in Moab every year. And that event was Power Wagons in Moab. And every year we'd have people come and pay us to basically do what you're seeing right now on the screen.
That looks so
With
cool.
me and my wife. We had a lot of people turn out every year. And COVID kind of put the brakes on that. But yeah.
Cynthia, you are back on with Mike Key. What's your question?
Okay. So if there was something that you had control, magic wand, what would you change that you experience? What would you change, if anything? Oh, come on up here. Come on up here.
I know exactly what I would change.
Okay.
When I first joined Sub 2, I would have found other people to partner with. I got frustrated early on because when I joined, I was like, oh, so I joined because I wanted to get into flipping houses and buying multifamily. And I didn't focus on that. Instead, I tried to be a wholesaler, and I tried doing that by myself. Just turned into me wasting a lot of money. If I had found other people and spent time learning from them first, I probably could have figured that out quicker than 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And save myself some time. Yeah.
So if I can ask you, did you ever master wholesaling?
Nope. It's just not for me. It doesn't fit my personality. It doesn't fit what I want to do. I'd rather buy deals and work with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding. I wanted to really master wholesaling, but there's just multiple reasons why it doesn't. Multiple reasons why I feel it's not working. Okay, and that part of networking, in a lot of the individuals in the field working, you got to call people back.
Yeah.
You gotta put on brakes a little bit to hear what's over there. And you got a lot of people that's they just moving. And so you can't grab them by the collar and say, hey, come on back here and work with me. Come on. I thought you said you was gonna call me back. You know what I'm saying? And so and so I'm looking at that a little bit different. I'm looking at, do I stay in this space of wholesaling versus I have more control if I purchase and do something with the purchase. Still got to purchase with the right numbers, but I think my wheels will turn a lot better doing that, opposed to trying to find that distressed house or that half distressed house that works in the numbers. It's just very difficult.
What I found too from interviewing people, I interviewed a lot of people, talked to a lot of different people, and got the opportunity to like hang out with guys like Jeremy Davis. And what I found is that there's small wholesalers that are nonstop hustling. They make lots of money. Then there's guys with businesses, and the guys with businesses make a lot of money, but they have like systems and processes. There's really no in between. And the guys that are hustling, they stop hustling, they ain't making any money. And what I wanted was a business, not to be a hustler. So I decided to focus more on my talents to earn income and then invest that into real estate by buying deals and doing flips. And then just learning to, like you said, hire people out to manage flips that I want to do. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for answering that question. I appreciate you.
You know what I find to be a consistent thread with you and I both is people, you know, and networking and building relationships. And, you know, I love seeing someone like yourself who just gets in and takes the bull by the horn and runs with it. And I don't think there's anybody else in Sub 2 that's done as much as you've done in such a short period of time to build their visibility, build their business, build their success, and build their credibility. And so with that, I just need to take my hat off to you, my friend.
Thank you.
You know, it's an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to call you my friend. And that's what we want to do, is meet people that are successful that we can get to know. And I say it all the time, you know, chase a relationship or chase the deal. You know, if anything with yourself, I've just tried to work at us building a stronger friendship as time goes by, because at the end of the day, as one of my dear friends likes to say, it's the relationships that are going to last in the long haul.
Yep.
You know,
the relationships will give you the most value in the long haul too.
Yeah. So, you know, Mike, I don't think we have any more questions. What I'd like to do is run a couple of questions by you.
Yeah.
Kind of roll things up, see if we can't run into the breakout rooms. But one of my questions is, you know, if people want to reach out to you, they want to connect, whether they're on the call now or they're watching on YouTube weeks or months down the line, what's the best way for people to contact you? What's the best way for people to? There you go.
There you go. Look, there we go. I'm doing
there. It is, Mike Key. It's all those platforms. Is it predominantly Instagram?
I use it everywhere. Predominantly Instagram. Yeah, predominantly Instagram is the best place to message me.
Last question for you. My group's a networking group, and I talk about networking all the time. And after a while, I become a talking head. You know, JJ's talking about networking again. But for yourself, it's actually, you know, use some of the things I've talked about. You've implemented them. You've gone in a very short time from being a relatively new investor to highly visible and highly successful. There's all these education platforms that have a Facebook page for their community. There are new investors coming all the time. Some have very little experience. Some have a lot of experience, but they're new to the real estate education platforms that utilize social media, such as Facebook. When it comes to investors making their business successful as they come to the platform of social media, how important is networking? It's one thing to join a Facebook group, but how important is networking to the success of someone's business? And not only networking, but maybe using a group like mine, which is a networking group, to the success of someone's business.
It's like the number one most important thing you can do. Yeah. Not just, so people have a habit, like join Sub 2 and they go, you got to make 50 friends. So they just add people randomly. Doesn't work. You gotta actually spend the time to like message people, talk to them. Mm-hmm. And then if you have meetups in your area, go to those meetups.
Yeah.
Get to know people, become visible, put on a meetup yourself, join JJ's group, introduce yourself in there, post your content in there. Yeah. It's really valuable, but you gotta make the effort. Even just the commenting on people's stuff. Like if there's other new people to join and they're in from where you're at, just comment and say, hey, I'm in the same area. Would love to meet up with you sometime, or I'm going to be at this meetup. Let's connect, because they're going to remember, hey, that guy commented on my thing that one time. So yeah, it's all about like establishing yourself, being visible, and then building relationships.
Yeah, and one leads to the other. You cannot build relationships without being visible.
Yep.
You know, just to throw one more note in, you know, as we talked about Facebook, and we frequently talk about adding friends. And I just wanted to throw out again, just for anyone listening, when you're sending a friend request, always send a message with it. Never send a friend request without a message to introduce yourself. Don't leave people wondering who you are. Why are you reaching out? How do you know me? Why do you want to add me? If anything, a little introduction, say who you are and what your commonality might be, is going to take something that might have been a who are you to a hey, let's become friends. And so again, whether it's just sending a message on Facebook, it's all about reaching out, building a relationship, and being genuine with who you are. So, hey, Mike, I want to really, really thank you for coming on today, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I've loved us having the opportunity to get better acquainted. I'm going to want to follow up with you on some Instagram stuff and learn more about some of that stuff. I'm more of a Facebook guy, I guess, and not even that much, but on the beginning level. But if you guys want to connect with Mike, connect with him at Just Mike Key on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Mike's video is going to be out on the YouTube channel within about a week, hopefully. If you want to connect with me, go to my website, jjazizian.com. Click the little pulsating register now button, register for the group. You'll get invitations and registration links for all our upcoming Zoom calls. But, Mike and I appreciate you guys being here today. And Mike, I guess with you and I both on social media frequently, they'll be seeing both of us, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Guaranteed.
So, guys, thanks for joining us today. If you're on the call, don't go away. We're going to do some live breakout rooms in a minute. And, Mike, we'll see everybody else later, right?
All right. Sounds good.
See you guys soon. Thanks for joining us.